Are you tired of allowing anxiety to hold you back? Join me as we walk through powerful techniques that will allow you to break free from its grip. Funny enough, a video on anxiety, and I had so many different adverse instances that I needed to go through in order to even get here. Sometimes life imitates art. The irony is that I'm making this video in a place that I did not plan to make it. I am sweaty. I am in a place that is kind of louder than normal. I'm outside. I'm going to walk you through these 7 specific areas that I have found to be so helpful. Before I get to those, I want to start off with talking about a baseline belief on anxiety. I don't subscribe to the belief that anxiety is an illness or a disease or something necessarily to be diagnosed. And I understand that that's not a popular opinion. What happens when we diagnose anxiety is it really leads us down this path of pharmaceutical drugs. Of course, there is a place for them, and there are moments that are life or death for certain people where they do need some prescription drugs that will help them not take their lives. I'm not judging you if that's what you're doing. That's okay. There's a season and a reason for every moment and everything that we're doing. What I am suggesting is that these are not long-term solutions. I never knew I had anxiety. I just was going through my life, and it wasn't until I met with many different psychologists and coaches and therapists that I started to realize that I was dealing with a lot of anxiety. But I never wanted to be put in a box. I wanted to find out how to get to the root of what was causing my anxiety, and that's why I'm making this video. We will eventually have to reckon with the root of it. Not necessarily calm all the time, but able to find strategies where I can cope in the environments that I find myself in and have a lot more capacity to hold whatever it is that's coming at me. The world is an anxiety-ridden place. It just is. And I'm an optimist, and I see beauty. I mean, there's beauty all around me. My theory is that as humanity, we weren't taught enough skills about how to hold the contrast and perspective. We were not taught how to ground our body. We were not taught how to be more regulated in our nervous system. We were not taught necessarily how to question our mind or our thinking. The anxiety of this world doesn't go away. It's always going to be there. I like to look at it this way. The anxiety is kind of like the ocean. And yes, the world is made up primarily of water. And if we don't learn the rules and the strategies and the tools for how to take care of ourselves in this world that is so filled with opportunities to be anxious, then we will get swallowed up by it. And I don't want you to get swallowed up by it like I was. I was somebody who felt very sensitive growing up, and I didn't even know what that word was. Nowadays, we use that word highly sensitive or hypersensitive often. Let's just acknowledge that a good 20-30% of people are sensitive people. Maybe everyone's slightly sensitive. I'm not really sure anymore. If we walk around feeling like we're sensitive and this external world needs to cater to us, then we are creating a victim mentality for ourselves that will never ever serve us, and it will keep us in a vicious loop of more anxiety. One of my mentors said to me one time that the future is God universe's business, and the past is God universe's business, and our job is to figure out how to be here more in the moment. Now, no one's present in the moment all the time, but I do know that if I'm over there in the future, I'm in God's business, and if I'm over in the past, I'm also in God's business. And that's where anxiety mostly lives, is in the future. Guilt and worry or shame often live in the past, and worry can also live in the future. But regardless, if we're over there in other people's business, then who's taking care of us right here and right now? Anxiety is when we're caught up in all these thoughts and we're worried about what's going wrong. We can't give up even when we are faced with adversity. We must keep going. The number one thing I've learned, though, is that it always works out. Sit back, take a minute, take a breath, and just sit with it. An old version of me goes into coping mechanisms that don't necessarily serve me. So I'm trying to control. I'm trying to fix. I'm overcompensating. I'm rushing around. I'm thinking through all these scenarios. I'm trying to push through and make it happen and force it to happen, when in reality, when we're experiencing a lot of anxiety, what we really need to do is lean back and get quiet for a minute and take a moment, they find a way to figure themselves out. If you are feeling it, your nervous system and your physical body are experiencing it. And it often is happening because of the thoughts that are popping up in your head. I use a lot of work from Byron Katie, who's amazing. It's called The Work. She talks a lot about looking at your first thoughts and questioning your first thoughts. So when we question our thoughts and we ask ourselves, in Byron Katie's words, is that true? Is it really true? And we really can start to question it enough to understand that there's a deeper thing happening. If everything always works out, we can start to trust that things are not going the way that we want them to go because there's a better thing in store. There's something even more important for us to look at. Just a second ago, my son and his friend just rode by on their bikes, and it was so nice to see them. And so it reminds me that in one moment, we can look out into this world. I'm in this beautiful park. I love people watching in the park, and we can see calm and beauty and green and trees and flowers and smiling people and happy babies and love and romance and water. You can see all these wonderful things. But in that next moment, we can look out at that same landscape and we can feel adrenaline rushing through our body. We can feel excess cortisol. Our nervous system can be dysregulated. We can be thinking thoughts of worry and stress. We can be in fatigue and overwhelm. This is when we have a hard time breathing, and this feels really real because it is. It's a physical body response. So anxiety really starts with us seeing some kind of external stimuli in our life or experiencing something going on in our environment. We have thoughts about it, and those thoughts lead to a response in our body. And based on our upbringing, based on our whole life strategy that we've been using up until this point, our nervous system reacts, and we hold, everyone's different, but we hold all these different types of stresses and anxieties differently based on who we are and what we've experienced. Number 4 is walking, and then walking some more and some more. I told a client recently to go for a walk for as long as it takes until you know you've cleared through the anxiety, then you can come home. So when I feel a lot of anxiety, I go for a walk and I keep on walking and I stay out there until I feel better. And then this leads us to emotions. And we have a very complex system of emotions. It's an entire language, really. And emotions are beautiful because they are our teachers, but we cannot allow our emotions to rule over us, or else we lose ourselves every single time, again and again. And some of the most common emotions that come up with anxiety, of course, are fear. And that fear can lead us to stress, to anger, to sadness, even to waves of grief. And it can send us further and further down the rabbit hole of more and more anxious thoughts. Number 5 is to change your physical state. So there's a lot of sensations that are happening in our body, and many of us are very connected to those sensations, and many of us are very disassociated to those sensations. I have been on both camps, and so no judgment here. Wherever you are with your body is the exact place that you need to be, but I do want to remind you that most of the anxiety is stemmed from thoughts and emotions that are trapped in our cells and even in our muscles. We can use progressive muscle relaxation. So maybe we're lying down and we can just start at the top of our head and we can start slowly moving through every single muscle that we can possibly get in touch with and see if we can relax that area of the body. And it takes time, but be patient with yourself and let your body lead you. Let it be the guide. It's been my experience personally and working with so many clients over the years that a lot of our anxieties are really rooted in us not getting our needs met when we were children. And now that we are grown-up adults, we don't get to blame our parents. It just doesn't serve us to do that. What it does point us to is there is self-parenting that is really important part of coping with anxiety, and that is to let ourselves know that we are safe, that we are taken care of, that we are loved, that we're supported, whatever it is that's needed. It's almost like we're talking to ourselves as if we are a parent talking to our inner child, because we need to remind that little inner self that is feeling so anxious that they are getting their needs met or that they can get their needs met. And so a lot of us have been so trained to cope with our anxieties by numbing out that we actually haven't learned how to take good care of ourselves. One of the things that holds us back is this feeling like the environment or the thing happening outside of us is bad, or the experience we're having is bad, or it's wrong. We have judgment on it. And what happens when we're in this judgmental place is that we want to fix, or we want to change, or we want to make it go away. And that's what creates more and more anxiety. What if the thing that was happening outside of us wasn't labeled as good or bad, or even right or wrong? Our job was to be here on Earth School and to figure out how to cope through the situation. One of the things that has helped my anxiety more than anything is learning how to hold multiple perspectives. And that's learning how to hold contrast. Holding contrast means that there's more than one experience that can happen. I've also learned that facing my anxiety was really about learning about emotional maturity and how much my emotions were at an immature level because I didn't know how to take care of my own needs. I didn't learn that. As a grown-ass adult, I've learned how to take care of my own needs. I've learned how to source my own sense of security and safety, and to love myself, to like myself, to appreciate myself. A way where we're really honest with ourselves and honest with our emotions, honest with our thinking, honest with taking self-responsibility when things don't go our way. And we must do this for ourselves. We must learn how to ground and regulate in our body because no one can do that for us. No one can. We must learn to find ourselves, to take responsibility for our emotions, for our thinking, for how we are experiencing life in this beautiful body that we were given. Essentially what we're doing is we are increasing our capacity as we do this to hold more. So the more we feel grounded in our emotions and our nervous system and our body, and the more we are paying attention and questioning our thoughts, then what it does is it allows us to have a capacity to hold more and more. And the more capacity we have to hold, it doesn't matter what comes into our life, we're going to be able to kind of ride the wave of it more efficiently. If we have less capacity, then we know to take a step back, to take a breath, to get quiet. One last bonus thing before I wrap up. Gratitude is my #1 antidote to anxiety. When I start feeling anxious, I let myself be in the feeling. I don't bypass it and try to push it away quickly, but I do immediately also start to hold simultaneously what around me can I look for that allows me to feel more of a sense of gratitude. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. I put out a video every single week, so if you want to be the first to hear, hit that little notification button, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.